and welcome to another recommitment ceremony episode of We Only Look Thin.
Wow.
I am your host, Katherine Weigel. I've lost over 100 pounds and kept it off for over 6 years. I'm a Tiny Habit certified coach, a Thrive Global certified coach, and I'm actually a certified wedding officiant.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Unfortunately. I always say I'm never going to talk about it, and then I always talk about it like, oh, no, I don't do weddings. Oh, yeah, I totally do. And with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I have lost about 100 pounds. I've kept it off for a little over 6 years, and I am not certified on the internet to marry people, but I did marry one person, and that is Katherine Weigel.
And we have made a commitment to ourselves that we will never ever, we promise this to you, to our friends, to our families, we will never invite you to a renewal of vow ceremony for us. We are one and done, everybody.
We might have talked about this on this podcast before, but when we first got married, I think we actually kind of talked about like, oh, well, we could like renew our vows in 10 years.
Our love is so strong and amazing. We want everyone to know it again and again. We want to rub it in their stupid faces and get more presents.
Well, and then we got like close to 10 years. It was like, that sounds like so much work for what?
Again,
so people can come and like celebrate us? That seems weird.
Well, we're introverts, but
yeah.
our love is
that's right.
That belongs to us. Like
yeah,
it doesn't.
That's right.
We don't need anyone to throw us an anniversary party. Like Donald joked at our last anniversary that our teen had to throw us a party, and I yelled, "You never! It is not your responsibility to remind us that we're in love. That is annoying."
Yeah.
So that is our business. It is not your business. Everybody.
I just want her to throw us a party.
Oh my gosh!
Like just.
No.
Okay.
Why would you make
snacks? Okay, I want a party for snacks.
You can buy your own stuff.
Oh, I can just get snacks.
You can just.
Okay.
I just like forcing somebody else to celebrate you. That just seems like it's your own job. Celebrate your own self is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, speaking of celebrating our own selves,
yes.
And recommitting, just because we don't want a public ceremony to recommit and celebrate our love for one another, we are offering you at free 99 an opportunity
That's right.
this September to recommit to guess who? Your own self.
What?
I didn't even give you a chance to answer that.
I was going to guess the person in the mirror.
Yeah, but the same thing.
Okay.
Like you are ready to recommit to your own health goals, to your values this fall or spring, as it might be if you are in the Southern Hemisphere. But September is a great time to sort of reassess your goals, what your habits are, your behaviors, and instead of saying, it is too late, I am going to wait until 2025.
Yeah.
Because it's too late into the year. I've already wasted all this time. Why even bother? We are asking you to recommit to your health goals for this season of your life.
Well, and that was old me. I mean, for many, many years over and over again, I would look at a calendar about this time of year and just double down on eating more and exercising less because, I'll just get back into it next year at this point. Like, why bother? But why dig myself into a deeper hole rather than, committing to doing something right now instead?
Right. So this is actually a big one for me, all jokes aside. We have had a lovely summer. We've had a little break from school, which is nice.
Yeah.
We've indulged in some activities, which is fun. Got Disneyland, all that stuff. But some of my habits, quite frankly, have gotten a little sloppy. And it is easy to just forget our core habits and behaviors. So we're going to go through and list some things that we are recommitting to in this season. Hopefully some of them will resonate with you, our dear listener, but really think about the things that you value, things that make you the best version of yourself. What have you gotten slack on? What might you be able to redouble your efforts on? And what inspiration might you find from Donald and Katherine Weigel?
Yes.
I'm going to talk about us as Donald and Katherine Weigel now. Catherine Weigel is going to start out with Catherine Weigel's
Oh my
first.
goodness.
Ooh, I don't like it.
No, I'm not. That is not something that's going to keep happening.
I'm first person McGee for sure. So, okay. So I'm going to start out, listener, think about what you are doing well, what you might want to redouble your efforts on and commit to in this season. So it's a little fresh start for the fall, back to school, back to habits. So here we go. I'm going to go with number 1. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great. Let's do it.
I'm going to just start with number 1.
Let's keep talking about doing it instead of doing it.
Okay, so number 1, and this is a big one for me, is I am going to go back to using my food scale instead of eyeballing.
Oh,
my magic eyeball gets bigger and bigger, and portions get bigger and bigger the less I use my scale. So I'm going to use my food scale. I'm going to set it to grams, and I am going to accurately measure. Even, and we've talked about this before, there's a lot of math in the background. If you want me to send it to you, I will. Just send me an email at weonlylookThin@gmail.com. But math tells us that even an untracked 100 calories a day over the course of a year could result in a 10-pound weight gain.
Oh, boy.
So 200 extra calories a day for a year is 20 pounds. Guess how much 300, I just ruined it. Guess how much 300 extra calories a day might be?
75 pounds.
No.
30 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Look, I've made it very clear I'm not a math major.
Okay, so every 100 calories can result in an extra 10 pounds. How about that? Just as our axiom. That is what we are telling you. I will supply the math for you. But all of those bites, licks, and tastes, that little scoop of sour cream, a dab of guacamole, dollop. That's it. Dollop.
A dollop, a dab, and a what was
dip.
The other thing you said? A dip?
I don't know.
They all seem like the same thing,
but
I think.
All of these little like smatterings of like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's like the dollar bin at Target. Suddenly you're $100 in to I didn't buy much at Target. The same thing happens with our calories. So I'm going to go back to using my food scale. The next part of that, and they kind of go hand in hand, is I am going to track before I eat. So I'm going to track it before I chew it, because when I'm like, oh yeah, I'll remember how many grams that was, or like, oh, I'm really hungry, I'm just going to do that first. It gets really sloppy and I forget. I have a very short memory when it comes to what I have eaten. So I'm going to track it before I bite it. And then the final one kind of in this track-attunity area is I do my best when I generically pre-track my day.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Donald actually just tracks his day, but I don't know what I'm going to eat. There's so many options in the world. What am I going to do? What I can do is budget my meals. So what I do, ideally would be before I go to bed at night, I will pre-track generically. I have a breakfast at 300 calories, a snack at 200 calories, an afternoon snack at 200 calories, and an evening snack at 200 calories, a 400 calorie lunch, and a 400 calorie dinner. Bob's your uncle. This is a little placeholder, like a reserve table. You walk up and you're like, oh, that table's reserved. I'm reserving this many calories for these parts of my meals. It helps me remember that I need to save calories for later in the day and not use them all at once. So again, I'm going to pre-track generically to set myself up for success tomorrow.
Yeah. And, I do things a little bit differently. I tend to eat a lot of the same foods every day at the same time of day, and with a little bit of variation. But I tend to, because I actually go to an office to work most days, I will pack all of my food that I'm taking with me. And so I'll track everything up to and before dinner in the morning. And then as I'm making dinner, then I track everything from dinner to the end of the day. I do that in like sort of two sweeps,
right.
sweeps, dobs, dabs, dollops.
Yeah. So as we're finishing up this section, I'm just going to say one of the cornerstones of weight loss is actually eating at a calorie deficit. I would say that that is the biggest reason that people lose weight. And so if I say that that is important to me, then I am going to use my food scale, track it before I bite it, and pre-track generically. And now we are moving on to Donald Weigel and what he is planning on committing to this season.
Yeah, and my first one is that I'm going to commit to making sure that I have Lucky Meals in the freezer or pantry. And what that means, look, it's a reframing of, we used to call them, or I've called them for a long time, emergency meals. I would have a frozen, 350 calorie lasagna, or, some sort of frozen, I'm a vegetarian, so some sort of like frozen convenience meal that I really like, but I would always make sure I have at least one of those in the freezer, or, something like a can of soup or can of chili or can of ravioli that's reasonable calorie, on hand, so that if something comes up, and, say I get stuck at work late, or I get home and realize that I don't have anything, fresh available to make, that I have something to fall back on. And the bigger commitment behind this one gesture is to really recommit to planning for when things go wrong. I almost don't want to say wrong, but when things don't go the way that I think they're going to go, and I have to then rely on plan B to stick to a calorie count. Really recommitting to that planning, and always having a plan B and a plan C when things don't go the way I think they're going to go.
Well, and it can tie into, I left my lunch bag on the counter at home, or the thing that I brought actually went bad and I didn't realize it, or someone stole my lunch out of the refrigerator, which has happened to me in the past.
Yeah.
And reframing that shelf-stable meal or that frozen food as a lucky, like, what good luck. I've got a backup plan. I am not a victim here. I don't have to revenge eat anything. I've got my backup. That actually happened to you this week. You were like, I had the backup meal at work.
Yeah, I forgot to pack my lunch entree to take to work with me, but I had a Lucky Meal in the freezer, and so I went with that.
So he
instead.
Is a lucky duck.
So now I don't have a Lucky Meal in the freezer at work, and I need to replace that, which was part of what made me put this one down.
All right.
So my second one is to commit to stop stealing Catherine's lunch out of the refrigerator.
You don't steal it.
It was me. I did it. No, I didn't do it. Okay, so my second one is, say it with me, committing to pump up the volume.
Pump up the volume.
We used to be professional singers, in case you couldn't tell. So that I'm sort of taking it to a fall bent, and to me that is to really lean into fall soups. For example, that's one thing I'm going to do. Trader Joe's has this harvest chili, which is like 320 calories, and it's a lot of food. There are lots of like hearty fall vegetable soups that are great calorie wise. Black bean, split pea, like you can find and or make yourself all kinds of very like super calorie friendly, like very high volume soups that really fill you up. And if you add a lot of things, and I don't know what you like necessarily, but if you add a lot of like, low-cal vegetables, cauliflower, mushrooms, onions, like things like that really like will fill you up, they don't, add a lot of calories to whatever you're making.
May I break into your special time?
Breaking news for my special time.
Your special time.
Yes, please. Please do.
We received an email from listener Ruth. Hello, Ruth.
Hello, Ruth.
Hi, Ruth. And she, in particular, she literally said this in her email, I also want to give a shout out to soups. We're doing a shout out to soups.
Shout out to soups, everyone. Soups are one of my favorite things.
Which I know you've mentioned many times before on the podcast. I love making a big pot of soup when I have the time and freezing portions for workday lunches. Whenever I don't have lunch prepared to take with me to work, I can just pull out one from the freezer and heat it up in the microwave. It's another one of those good luck meals to have on hand. Ruth believes in the power of soups. Donald believes in the power of soups. And I do too. I believe in the power of the soup. So
Absolutely.
Embracing that seasonal thing is a big thing too, because right now I am in a season of pumping up the volume with watermelon, which is the best food in the whole world.
Yeah, I think you can eat 47 pounds of watermelon for 40 calories.
Yeah, it's really good.
Something
Actually,
like that.
500 grams of watermelon, which is the highest number of grams that Fitbit will allow in one dose.
One dose of watermelon
is about 150 calories. And that's like a half a pound of watermelon.
Yeah, for our American listeners.
Like, it's a lot of watermelon. You get a lot of bang for your watermelon buck.
And speaking of fruit, I was going to go on to say I really would like to lean into the fall fruits,
right,
which I will include pumpkin in that. And one thing that I do is I will buy canned pumpkin about this time, and I will add it with some pumpkin spice to a vanilla yogurt, and that pumps up the volume and gives me a nice like pumpkin spicy treat.
Right. So as like watermelon is going by the way of the dinosaur, and pumpkins are now replacing it as a gourd in the world. Bye-bye, watermelon. Hello, pumpkin.
Hello, pumpkin.
It's like they're trading jobs. But also, I know people who put pureed pumpkin in things like macaroni and cheese. You get that extra fiber.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of
and it's very low
color.
calorie until you add sugar to it.
Yeah. So, but pumping up the volume in the season, I could be super mad that watermelon isn't going to be good anymore. But I can lean into things like your apples and your pears and your pumpkins. And you had another vegetable or fruit in there, didn't you?
Well, I had a list of fall fruits.
All right.
Plums.
And I laughed at him.
Plums, which I actually do enjoy. Apples, pears, and plums. And then I added kiwi and persimmons, which are both on there.
I laughed a hearty laugh.
Literally, she was like the funniest thing she ever heard, because she knows I'm not going to eat a kiwi or a persimmon. But there probably are people out there that like them.
I was like, you are not eating a persimmon this fall. Like, that is not
that's
happening.
Probably true.
But that's limited. That's a limiting belief. Maybe you will eat a persimmon.
You know what? I'm going to become persimmon guy just to spite you.
You know
now.
what? You know why I am? I eschew the persimmon, because we were on a walk once. And we were walking down this in the Hollywood Hills. We were walking, and I think a woman actually threw a persimmon at us from her persimmon tree. She was in her like in a nightgown, and she threw a persimmon at us.
I don't remember this, but
anyway, so I'm not going to have a persimmon this fall, but Donald's might. That's my growth mindset. Well, and as a little add-on, because I always add things on, my sort of tiny habit for this season will be to ask myself, how can I pump up the volume of whatever I'm having? So for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, how can I add just a little bit of volume, whether it's a fruit or a veggie, a little bit of volume to increase my satiety? So that is going to be kind of that, instead of having the one thing of, I'm going to add it for dessert or for dinner, what can I add at each and every meal to pump up the volume?
Yeah, and Catherine just said it, but in case we weren't clear, pumping up the volume is adding low-calorie food so that you get more volume, so that you feel full, and you feel full for longer on a similar amount of calories.
Right. Okay, so my next sort of category, the next things I'm going to focus on, and this is a big one for me. I hate to admit it, but this summer I've gotten a little loosey-goosey with celebrating summer evenings with a cocktail. And my normal policy is only having a cocktail on the weekend. And I've been a little lax on that recently. So my habit for the fall, the thing I'm going to recommit to, is saving alcohol for Fridays, and Saturdays. So it is not for me the alcohol that is necessarily the issue, the calories for the alcohol, but it's just like, oh no, I'm feeling very festive, and maybe I'll have some snacks, and maybe I'll have some cheese and crackers. And so it is it makes me loosey-goosey. There, I said it. This is a family show. Get a little loosey-goosey with my calorie tracking, and then I end up snacking. So I'm going to recommit to limiting my alcohol consumption because it makes me calorically promiscuous. I get a little loose with my tracking and get in with some additional snacking. So I'm going to save it for the weekend.
For me, the calories of the alcohol itself are also a big factor. Like it is not an insignificant amount. Like if you end up having, one drink isn't a lot usually, depending on what you have, but you start getting into 2, 3 on a night, that ends up being a lot of calories just in and of itself. And then just what Catherine said, then my decision making gets worse, and I decide to eat a lot of food that I hadn't intended to eat.
Exactly. So the next one that I'm going to focus on is limiting my choices. I am easily confused by decision fatigue. If I have too many options for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, the too much variety actually leads me to indecision, and it leads to me overeating as well. Like, oh, well, I really want an Oreo, but I also kind of want this lemon bar. Well, I really want to eat this, but I also want to eat that. And for me, the more choices I have on kind of the snacky foods, I get into a little bit of a danger zone there. So I'm actually going to kind of pull back from the variety and just be like, you know what? This week you're having what is it called? Like a tangerine vanilla ice pop as your dessert instead of 50 different choices, which I end up then just grazing on. So I'm going to kind of limit my choices for my snacking this season. Maybe week by week have like a snack of the week and just focus on that so that I'm not overthinking my snacks. And the next one, and this is a really big one for me, is I do much better when I really forecast my weeks in advance.
Yeah.
I do something, I've got a weekly dashboard that is available in Wolt Place. Join Wolt Place, and then you can get this weekly dashboard.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Join Wolt Place.
Our Facebook-based accountability group. But basically, it is a Monday through Sunday overview of your week. What kind of challenges are coming your way this week? What's the weather like? How's that going to affect my activity? What kind of foods am I going to eat kind of based on what days, what things are coming up? Is it a quiet week? Is it a busy week? And kind of budgeting my week in advance. I do so much better when I really look at that. And it also helps me stop those impulsive choices of, wow, I really want to have this random snack tonight. And then I go, oh, but we're going to Disneyland on Saturday. So I'm going to save up my indulgence for Saturday instead of eating like a janky, I don't know, I'm thinking of like one food, like a Twizzler. I don't know. I don't even like Twizzlers, but maybe sometimes you like randomly.
I'm often tempted at Disneyland to go for a bag of name brand chips that I could get anytime instead of something that I can only get there, and really like making your treats special to the occasion. Yeah,
that's true. So I'm going to really lean into pre-planning because when I do, I tend to pay much more attention to my goals over the long run. So I'm actually going to work on my dashboard this afternoon. So that is that. And then my last one is planning treats in advance. That whole thing of just, again, I'm sort of reiterating, but I'm going to, and this is something that I'm doing in Wolt, is I have a little snack pack that I have. I'm going to fill it up with primarily volume fruits to enjoy as my evening snack. I'm just going to pick one snack to have at night, not a million different snacks, but planning that and preparing it in the morning. I think this is the difference. Preparing it in the morning, keeping it in the refrigerator, and then having it right after dinner as my, like, this is my snack. I'm not grazing at night of like, oh, well, what am I putting together? When I'm grazing in the kitchen at night, it doesn't go well. Planning it in the morning, having it already packed up and ready to go will help set my future self up for success. So that is what I'm going to do.
All right. So leaning into the theme of planning in the fall, I am going to plan on taking my movement inside.
Oh.
And what does that mean? Well,
bring it inside. How about that?
Exactly.
It's like the hokey pokey.
That's right.
Out in.
Exactly. So we have taken advantage of the summer weather and the longer days, and Catherine and I have been doing a lot of morning walks in the actual outdoors while the weather's been good and while it's still pretty light in the morning. But as we get into the fall and winter season, it's going to be darker and colder. And so having a plan to bring my movement inside. So we've talked about having these rebounders, which are these mini trampolines, which are really just as effective as getting a walk outside that we can use inside our apartment. And I also have a walking pad, which is like a very slimmed down treadmill that fits under our couch. That I can also use in the morning, and it doesn't bounce things as well. So planning in advance to movement inside as the weather gets worse at this time of year.
Well, and we talked about too in July that idea of seasonal activities that, ideally, yes, I'd love to run every single day of the year. I'd love to swim every single day of the year, but recognizing that based on your environment, your location, the weather patterns, that it might be beneficial to have a seasonal activity. Just like kids in school, they play football for a season, they do tennis for a season, they do water polo for a season. It's not 365 days a year. So think about your summer activities, how hot it was, how cold it was, all those different temperatures that we can name in the world. And how can you adapt it to fall? What might you need to change? Is that an inside track at your local rec center that might be better suited for walking? Is it changing the time that you walk based on how dark it is? Because right now it's like pitch black dark when we go out early in the morning.
Yeah, the first part of it, yeah.
So switching up your activity for the season, I think, is a really good way to just be more agile and be proactive about your movement.
Well, and also recommitting to getting movement just throughout your day. I've talked about this before on this show a lot about how I work right now on the 5th floor of a building. I walk down the stairs to the 2nd floor to use the restroom, and I do that at least twice a day. Usually ends up being more than that. And I walk back up the stairs, just as an example. Or, I can't remember if I talked about this before. It's not the most exciting story, but like instead of getting ice from the freezer that's on my floor, I walk down to a different floor and get ice.
Steal their ice.
And steal their ice from a
That's how
floor.
they see it.
That kind of thing. And then I've also started doing, which I know not everyone can do this, but I eat my lunch at my desk while I'm working, and then for my lunch break, I get an actual lunch break. I go out for an actual walk and listen to podcasts and stuff. Now, I don't know how easy that will be in bad weather to make that happen, but, just figuring out movement throughout my day, when I'm grocery shopping, et cetera, at work, et cetera, adding more work. Okay. Then the next thing on my list is recommitting to weighing myself regularly.
This is for me too.
And this needs to be, like, I do it every Saturday morning, but I have, as Catherine put it so eloquently earlier, gotten a bit loosey-goosey with weighing myself every week. Usually this is a sign that I've been overindulging when I just say to myself, oh, I don't want to get on the scale as right now. I'm going to wait until I've had a couple of weeks in a row where I've stuck to a calorie goal, something like that. So it is important to me, and I think important to you out there, the listeners, to not overweigh yourself, not be obsessed with getting on the scale multiple times a day or multiple times a week, but at least regularly committing to getting on the scale so that you see, how your habits are moving the needle, so to speak.
Yeah, when and this definitely has happened this summer of like, oh, well, I just got back from this, so I'll wait a week. Like, oh, well, I forgot, I've got a thing. Like, I won't weigh this week. And then suddenly a month has gone by and I realize I haven't gotten on the scale regularly. So recommitting myself, that's one of those, we've talked about it, those canary habits, those telltale signs that my habits might be slipping. So I am going to recommit to my Friday weigh-in. And part of that too is showing up in Wolt Place. We only look in place. We have a subgroup called Weigh to Go. Woohoo, weigh, like weighing things.
Oh, I get it now. Oh, I didn't get it till now.
Oh, I love you. Donald doesn't really participate in Wolt Place. It's my thing. It's my girl gang hangout.
Yeah.
Cool club. But the podcast would not happen without Donald Weigel. So thank you very much. But that, like, when I'm not posting my weight in the group, when I'm not weighing in regularly, again, that is a sign that my habits might be slipping. So I'm going to recommit. Helpful. It is very helpful to do that. I'm going to weigh in good week, difficult week. I'm going to recommit to weighing in all the time.
All right. So take us home, dear. What are the final things that we are recommitting to?
Okay. So I am recommitting to really looking at the season ahead. What does this fall look like? It's sort of a time of transition. We've got some things going on. I guess we always have things going on, but I don't have anything so dramatic that I can't focus on my weight loss goals. Like, things are happening, but I would like to lose weight this fall. And so I am committing to putting habits in place that will make that happen. We actually had a Zoom meeting over the weekend of sort of talking about, like, what would a person who was losing 10 pounds do this season? Like,
Yeah.
what was the me who was losing 10 pounds? What habits did she have in place? And they were more specific than just like, well, I'm going to pump up the volume, everybody. Like, that is a great habit to have, but calories and a calorie deficit lead to weight loss. So as we said at the top of the episode, a calorie deficit leads to weight loss. And I am in right now, based on my current circumstances, in a zone where weight loss should be possible. And that will require a little bit of planning, some resolve, some grit, and an actual calorie deficit. So I'm looking at my season, and I know that this is true for me right now, that I could lose weight. And so that is my plan. What season are you in right now? Are you in a season where maintaining would make sense to you just based on your stressors? Is this a place to super level up and like sign up for a half marathon and, join a fitness club, do something super active? Are you ready to level up? Are you ready to lose weight? Or is this a time to kind of maintain and kind of keep a low key profile until your season changes? For me, this is a season of weight loss. So that is what I'm planning on. We have a trip planned around Christmas. And guess what? I can definitely gain weight when I go on a vacation.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a really good time to maybe offset that with some weight loss. So that is the plan for me. I would love to lose some weight. So that is number one. And then my final one, and this comes into what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is to take the time to pause to ask if what I'm doing aligns with my core values. We talked about this a few weeks ago, about really thinking about what it is I value in life. I value travel, I value independence, flexibility, and autonomy. And when I make choices that align with my values, I want to be mobile. I want to be able to walk 20,000 steps a day. I want to be able to carry luggage. I want to be able to get up early and see beautiful sunrises. My values affect the habits that I have. And when I pause and think, boy, I sure do want to stay up and watch some extra TV or play Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Does that align with my value of being able to wake up early in the morning and get in my activity? No, it does not. So pausing for a moment and asking myself if what I'm about to do aligns with my values or takes me away from my values and limits my possibilities and my choices. That is kind of my guiding principle for this fall, is really thinking about living into what I say I value in the long run. A lot of times when we get stuck in the day-to-day, oh, I've got all these meetings, I've got these appointments, I've got things to fill out, the kids are doing this thing, like, oh, the roof is leaking. When we get stuck in our day-to-day lives, it's really easy to lose sight of a long-term vision for our habits and our goals. So stepping back and really recommitting to the things that make you feel the most like your best self, the things that make you feel proud and strong and capable. These are the things that we're going to focus on this fall. And these tie into sort of the cornerstones of our healthy habits: weighing and measuring our food, planning in advance, pumping up the volume, getting on the scale, asking ourselves if our values align with our habits, doing a little bit of pre-planning in advance, setting up some schedules for ourselves, adapting to the season, whether it's a figurative time of year, the kinds of foods that are available, the kinds of activities that make sense. We have an opportunity to level up our commitment to ourselves this holiday season, whether the holiday is Labor Day or Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever is in between. We can live into recommitting to the version of ourselves that we know will make us proud. So these are the things that we are going to be focusing on this season. And we believe that you can take a moment, think about a few things that you will recommit to. This doesn't have to be huge and life-changing. You don't have to have all 12 or 15 or however many Donald and I have. We're two people.
Yeah.
So split, like, it's fine. It's fewer if we split them up. But what can you recommit to? What have you lost sight of? What have you been avoiding? Let's take this time at the beginning of September to recommit to those goals. We believe it will pay off for us, and we believe it will pay off for you.
We sure do. And thank you so much for listening. You know, when you said that you valued carrying luggage, I decided to commit to allowing you to carry my luggage as well, to help you.
I'm not carrying your baggage, figurative or literal.
Help you. I'm just trying to help you, dear. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We are really, truly grateful for each and every one of you that you've taken some time out of your day to listen to this podcast. It really does mean a lot to us. And you can find other episodes of this show. The most recent 300 are on all of the major podcast platforms, and all the way back from the beginning, you can listen. And again, I haven't actually checked this out since the last episode, but I'm told that all of our episodes are on Spotify, and we go all the way back to episode 1 on YouTube, and you can listen at any time on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep, and if you are at weonlylookthin.com, click on that link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about Wolt Place. This is the perfect time to join Wolt Place. We've actually had over a dozen returning members just this year who have recommitted to their weight loss goals. Sometimes we need to take a pause, step back a little bit, and recommit. And they have recommitted, and we hope that you will commit to joining Wolt Place too. We have weekly Zoom meetings. We've got awesome worksheets, planning things, habit trackers, lots of things to focus on. We do morning and evening check-ins. It's a great place for fellowship and accountability and really showing up, good day and bad, to get great ideas and support from other women in their weight loss journey ventures. And we have 2 subscription options, a monthly option with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription, perfect for the holiday season.
Yeah.
A 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if Wolt Place is right for you.
Yeah, so check that out. And you can also check us out on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at We Only Look Thin. Or you can interact with us by sending us an email. We enjoy getting episode suggestions or just suggestions in general.
And soup shout-outs like Ruth Ruth gave us a soup shout out. I'll say that 5 times.
Listen,
fast.
If you just want to celebrate soup or pickles or, any of the other things that I in particular love, or maybe things Catherine likes too, like carrying luggage, you can send us an email and do that. We'll do our best to answer your questions. And if you have any episode suggestions, we have turned listener emails into many episodes of this show. And you can do all of those things to weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep. Or you can be like TT Pot, Alex W. Jacobson, and BZ1223, and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review.
Yeah.
Motivating and entertaining. My favorite. Laughs. There are so many wonderful compliments that we get about how funny we are and how helpful we are,
Mostly
too.
That's what we want. The weight loss and health advice is whatever, but if you think we're funny, that's the thing.
And if you don't think we're funny, we're still very helpful. We have lots of valuable information.
Yeah, that's true, too.
All of these people, Kelly Krause, Heather McLaughlin, all these different people, they have left us rating and reviews. They have been a part of the magic of We Only Look Thin. They are part of our history, a part of the people who care about us. It means so much to get ratings and reviews from listeners. Really, after all of these years, I mean, we're like 6.5 years.
6.5, yeah.
6.5 years of podcasting, over 1.7 million downloads. Amazing. But we value every single one of the ratings and reviews that we get. And it also helps other people find our podcast when they're looking for podcasts like ours.
Yeah, I get uncomfortable tooting our own horn, but I'm going to be a horn tooter for a second. I read from a allegedly reliable source that less than 10% of podcasts get past 5 years, and we've now done 6.5.
Busted the barrier, but that's huge. Like, we have not missed. I mean, knock on wood. I'm knocking on my head right now.
Yeah, now you're going to jinx it.
My wooden George Washington teeth. We haven't missed an episode.
No, every single week for 6.5 years.
Yeah, like that. I've never been, aside from being married to you, I'm not sure I've done anything else more consistently. So we are showing up. Please show up for us. It means the world.
Also, if you could tell somebody about the show, that would really help us out. If you are in a conversation, an old-fashioned conversation, and it comes up, if you know somebody that might get something out of the show, we would appreciate if you would give them a shout-out. Or if you are on the interweb, if you are in a Facebook group, a Discord server, a Reddit group, I frequent many of those things involving weight loss myself to both give and get advice. And if you could give us a shout out in one of those places, it really does help the show grow.
It sure does.
So if you have been distracted this entire episode by trying to figure out the difference between a daub, a dab, and a dollop, instead, please remember that Catherine and I are an inspiration.
And we are not renewing our wedding vows.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.